Hello, everybody. Welcome to, as I move in my chair, this episode of Songwriting Simplified with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk. I hope everybody is doing well on this middle of the week as we begin the month of February. That's crazy, because that means we're like 11 months away from a certain event with where you put up decorations and that kind of thing, which I'm not going to mention because it's way too early in the year to start even be thinking about that particular time of the year, so we won't talk about it. So anyways, I hope everybody is doing well. For some reason, the YouTube studio page is not showing me how many people are watching, so I don't actually know if there is anybody actually watching or not. There must be, because there's folks here in the chat, so I'm a bit confused, to be fair. And I don't actually know what is going on, but it's basically telling me 0, which is very odd. So, YouTube Studio appears to be broken. So if somebody could keep kind of a watch on how many people are actually here and how many people are watching and all of that stuff, because it's not telling me diddly squat at the moment. Keith says millions. If only that were true. We usually get somewhere between 15 and 20 people on the Wednesday show, the Songwriting Simplified show. So unlikely it's going to be millions. I think we peaked at... Oh, here we go. Now the data is coming in. Says 11 here. There we go. So I think the highest record number of people that we've had for a Wednesday show is 40. And I think that was at the Wednesday show that I did for the launch of Studio Pro 8. That particular Wednesday show, because I did a show live on the day. And then we had the Wednesday show, and yeah, we had loads of people there. But yeah, the Sunday Night Live show that we had that first Sunday, good grief. Actually, at one point I thought, hey, you know what? We might actually hit 100 people, which would be extraordinary. But we didn't. We didn't get to 100. I think we got like 65 or something. So that is the new record to beat, 65. So I'm hoping that future versions of Studio Pro 8 will generate that much interest. Maybe not, because, the controversy over the rebranding and the name change and all of that will have dissipated by the time we get to, like, the next major feature updates and that kind of thing. So I think most of that dust will have settled, as indeed it has already for the most part. Most people are kind of through that particular thing now and are just going, you know what? I should probably just upgrade just to basically see what the story is here, so that I'm not just coming across as being a whinge bag and I'm just talking about the name when I haven't actually downloaded, installed it, and tried it out for myself. I'm just kind of sticking my nose up at it. There was a lot of that going on, for sure. And I think now what we're seeing is we're starting to see people actually who maybe did have their nose up in the air about it, have actually gone ahead and upgraded, and they're trying it for themselves, and they're going, actually, you know what? This is actually pretty darn good. It's like Studio One. It literally is like Studio One. Surprise, surprise. Because it is. It's Studio One with a new name. It's as if Shock Horror, Presonus, and Fender got married. So and became Mr. and Mrs. Fender. That's an analogy if you want one. It's a little bit of a weak analogy, but it's okay. It kind of fits. It kind of works. Anyway, so we are here to talk about songwriting, and songwriting in the context of Studio One and Studio Pro 8. I'm not just going to talk about Studio Pro 8 because I know that not everybody will have upgraded to the new versions. So if you have not upgraded, don't worry, I am not leaving you out. Because what we do on the Wednesday show is we talk about songwriting, broadly speaking, in general, as much as we talk about the tools that are available for songwriting in Studio Pro 8, of which there are now many more. And some of them are way better than anything that we could have imagined in the past. So songwriters and arrangers have definitely had some extra features added in this version. So, but by the same token, there is also still a lot of stuff there for mix engineers as well. The new channel overview, the arrangement overview. I think those are pretty great for mix engineers because it gives them easy access to an entire channel at a glance that you can interact with, so you can focus on one channel at a time, and you can be much more focused on the plugins that are on that channel and what you're doing with them, with the little micro views that are in there. And so it is really easy from that point of view. So, I did think personally that the channel overview would be a divisive thing. I thought there would be a lot more. I thought there'd be maybe as much controversy over that than there is over the rebranding, to be honest. Because I thought people might think, oh gosh, that's a massive thing. It covers the entire mixer. Yeah, it kind of does. And so I thought that would be something that people object to. But actually, people aren't objecting to it. They're actually saying, you know what, this is a really, really great feature. It's so useful. So they don't mind the fact that it does take over like the entire of the mixer view. Good thing is you can toggle it. You can turn it on and off, and you can have either view, and you can switch between the two views as well. If you want, you can set up a keyboard shortcut that does that. So, I think it's got a lot of uses, I should say. And of course, the arrangement overview I think is great as well, because you can be in a particular zoom state that you prefer to work in, and then you can use you can grab the little magnifier at the top and you can just drag it left and right and easily navigate your way through your session just with a single mouse click and a drag. It's very, very cool. I like it a lot. So JW says, very Ableton Live, so I love it. Yes, if you come from Ableton Live, this will be definitely a familiar feature to you. The name, frankly, I don't care. Yeah, I don't care either. And, I've been around PreSonus and Studio One for, the better part of 14 years, pretty much. And, yes, I got used to Studio One. I really did. I got used to that name. I got used to everything that there was about it. But it really doesn't upset me that we've changed it to Studio Pro. To be honest, I think I've said this before, but I was never really comfortable with the one part of the name. Studio One. So what does the one refer to? Now, having spent a lot of time with the developers, and particularly with Matthias, who is ultimately the chief architect of the program, I asked him, what did it mean when you said Studio One? What does the one part mean? And he said what they were trying to get at was that it was a studio grade program that was all in one. You had recording, mixing, you had songwriting, recording, mixing, and mastering at that point in the very first version, all in one product, all in one program. So you're not having to open another program like Steinberg's WaveLab to do your mastering and, basically export and import, and then, but, maybe the guitars are too loud now, so you scrub that session in WaveLab, and then you go and change your mix, and then you re-export it, you re-import it. None of that was necessary anymore. So everything is done in one program, so Studio One. I said to Matthias, I said, well, when we got to version 2, then it was becoming Studio 1, 2. So we had like two numbers adjacent to each other, kind of a little bit dissonant and a little bit jarring. However, guess what? We all got used to it. We all got used to it. And we went on to Studio One 3, Studio One 4, Studio One 5, Studio One 6, Studio One 7. And it didn't really bother anybody. You know? We all just got comfortable with that as the nomenclature. You know, that was just the name. So I think taking out the one, but keeping the Pro made sense to me. Studio Pro. Kind of makes sense. Especially when you think about the fact that last May, Fender launched Fender Studio, which is a cross-platform kind of stripped back, bare bones, very, very simple, very, very basic, pretty much one button record version of Studio One, which is the thing that Andy Mooney had been talking about in that article that he did with that magazine, that then everybody completely had a hissy fit over and said, oh, they're going to take all the professional features out of Studio One, wah, 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 wah. And everyone had apoplectic fits, and I'm surprised that cardiology units all over the world were not overloaded with new patients as a result. But when Fender Studio was launched, then everyone went, oh, yeah, we kind of feel a bit stupid now because this is exactly what he was talking about. The hilarious thing is, though, one of the things that Andy Mooney had said was, he said, really, the manual should be as few pages as possible, rather than 150 pages or so that most DAW user manuals are. Although that said, Pro Tools user manual is almost 300 pages, Cubase is about 400 pages, Nuendo is 672 pages. See, I do my research for this show, by the way. So the Studio One user manual is actually quite slender when you compare it to other DAW user manuals. And then Andy Mooney was just like, yeah, so, we should have as few pages as possible. Make the whole thing so intuitive that you don't really need much of a user manual. So that was kind of like the brief behind Fender Studio. The joke really is that the user manual is like 60 or so pages for Fender Studio. So anyway, now that we've got all of that out of the way, and I'm kind of saying that for people that are maybe not familiar with what's been going on, that they've maybe had their head in the sand, or they've been on holiday or whatever. So now that we've got all of that out of the way, here we are on a Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified. So let's talk about what we have now for songwriting. So there's a whole bunch. There's the chord assistant, which I really, really like. And it does a lot more than you think, actually. It looks like when you have a song open, and whilst I'm talking, I'm going to open a song, and we are going to take a look at what this does. It kind of looks like it just suggests maybe a handful of chords. But you can open the inspector of the chord track, and I'll show you some things that are available there, which I, to be honest, haven't really actually touched that much, but it is very, very, very well worth taking a good look at. So here we go. So let's go over to Studio One. That's not Studio Pro even. There we go. That's Studio Pro. All right, so this is our theme song for Songwriting Simplified, which you're all familiar with. Now, we have this little drop-down arrow here, which if I click on this guy here, this one doesn't open, but by the way, that is a bug and that will get fixed. But the second chord, this gives you some contextual options for different chords. So we've got E minor 7, we've got E, we've got A major 7, we've got D, add 9, we've got E7, we've got A, we've got D, we've even got C major 7, which is interesting when you consider that we are in the key of A major. We've got basically the flat 3. So we've got chord 4, we've got chord 5, we've got chord chord 1 and we got chord 5 minor, which is an interesting alternative. Now notice how these darker ones, they are darker. Basically, here it is. The more blue the suggestion is, like the lighter blue, the brighter blue colors, the greater the probability that this is a good choice. Where the darker ones, maybe less so, which is why I'm surprised that this E here, which is the chord 5 in A, should be a little bit kind of darker colored. And then chord 4. These should be bright to me, but that's just to me. D add 9 is basically chord 4 with an added 9. C major 7. Yes, I totally buy why this is going to be seen as an irregular chord because it doesn't belong to the key of A major. So that's, that should be dark. These ones I maybe don't agree with so much. So how does this chord assistant thing work? Well, it's essentially algorithmic and it's all based on probability. So if I enter another chord here, I can double click this guy here and then this opens up the chord selector. By the way, notice the Wheel of Fortune has gone and has been replaced by this crescent of craziness or crescent of chromaticism. So we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B here, and then we got flat and sharp, and then we got the different chord types above here, and then we've got additions and extensions. Okay, so we got major, minor, augmented, diminished, sus4, sus2, and power chord, which is what the fifth thing is. And then to these chord types, you can add these extensions. So you can have a major 7, a 7, you can have 13s, 9s, sharp 11, flat 13s, flat 9, flat 5, sharp 5. So there's plenty of more, shall we say, chromatic options, jazz options. And you can, of course, also change the bass note as well. So, for example, this chord here, this is a C, but it also has this is a C chord, but it has a D major in the bass, which is why we've got the little slash here. All right, so let's go back over to this one here. So down the bottom here, we've got this little chord assistant here. And you'll notice here that we've got some more interesting options that could be used. So this one is great because it's the one we're on, but we've also got D minor 6, D minor 9, G major 7 over A, which is nice. That would sound like this, which is nice. It's a nice sort of sus 13 chord built on chord 5, so I like that. G sharp minor 7 in the key of A would be the leading tone, but as a minor chord. So that would be, so here's our tonic. That would be that chord there. Which kind of suggests that we're going to C sharp minor, maybe, if we had chosen that. Then we got B, which is chord 2, but it's B major rather than B minor. We got B9, we got F sharp minor, we got D sharp augmented 7. Now, that's an interesting chord, because that's basically the flat 2 sharp, the flat 2 dominant chord with a sharp 5. So, here's key of D major. So here's E flat, and it wants us to have a 7 and a sharp 5. Now that kind of works if we're going to go from D to E minor. Or, yeah, minor rather than major. So. And then we could do the same again here. To lead up into F sharp minor. We could just keep going like that. So that's interesting as a suggested passing chord. So there's lots of little options here that you can try, and then you can look at the previous chord, look at the next chord, you can listen to the chord, and you can also use an instrument input to basically play a chord on your keyboard and have it basically figure out what that is and put it into the chord track for you. So these are all useful. So these are your root notes, flat or sharp, depending upon what you need. And then you can click on the bass note here and you can choose a different bass note. So we could have D major 7 on A flat, for example. Now, notice here it says add another chord for recommendation. So if we added another chord, because it wants to basically suggest what we should do next, then so if I kept on going, just adding chords, we get other chord recommendations here. Now, I've tested this, and you can put all sorts of weird and wacky chord types in here, and it will suggest equally weird and wacky chord options that you might choose as your next chord. So the idea behind the chord assistant here is to help you if maybe you're not particularly familiar with chords and what they do and how they work, to be able to create chords for your songs. This is particularly helpful if you are, let's say you are just a vocalist, but you write your own songs, but maybe you don't have great keyboard skills. Maybe you're not a particularly great guitar player. You can strum a few chords, but you want to be able to add some more chords to make your songs a bit more interesting. Well, this is what that is going to do for you. It's a fantastic, great feature. I love this, and it was actually great fun working with the developers on some of this stuff. So that's that. Now, like I said, you can open the chord track in the inspector. So we can select all of these chords here, and then we can open the inspector down the bottom, and we can see what we have here. So this first chord here is B-7, and it tells us what our bass note is. We can open up the chord selector from here. I can pull this section down a little bit, and I can also pull this section down here. And guess what? This shows us all the chords that are in the chord track at the moment. Now, see this button here? Insert chord preset at cursor. Okay, so I'm going to put the cursor over here, and I'm going to click this button here. Now, look what happens when we click this plus sign. We have major and we have minor folders. So let's open the major folder. Look at all this. We have chord changes that have their basis in a bunch of different songs. So maybe you want to use the chord changes from one of your favorite songs, like maybe Breakfast with Tiffany, or Make Me Feel, which I think is You Make Me Feel, and a few other songs. There's loads of songs here. Memories, Here's to You, Nothing Beats It. And then there's this one here, the backdoor progression. Now, some of these actually have song titles that are suggested, and some of these, like, because the chord progression sounds like a particular song. Okay, but some of these are a particular set of chord changes that are known in a particular style of music. All right, so this one here is called backdoor, and you'll see here we got 2, which is going to be in the key of A. It's going to be B minor, and then we got flat 7 to 1. So we got 2 to flat 7. So what does that sound like? So if we're in the key of A, we got chord 2 to flat 7, which is going to be G7. Okay, so that would be what we would call a backdoor 5-1. Okay, so you hear this a lot in jazz music, but it's not exclusive to jazz. You'll hear this in pop music. You'll hear backdoor 5-1s a lot in country music, particularly modern country music. Modern country music is surprisingly complex harmonically. They employed these little devices like backdoor 5-1s or backdoor 2-5-1s. So what is a backdoor 2-5-1? Well, a backdoor 2-5-1 is where we don't play the 2, we play the 6 instead, and we go 6, flat 7 to 1. So you will have heard this, for example, at the end of the Star Trek Voyager theme. So for those of you that like Star Trek, that you may well be running that song through your head right now. You know, that one. that finishes with a backdoor 251, where you go. So instead of going 251 in C major, D minor, G, C, it goes flat 6, flat 7, 1. That's a backdoor. That's a backdoor 251. And then of course this one here. This is the classic 251, 3 6 251 turnaround, which is very popular in all kinds of music, including jazz, but it has its roots in jazz. And yeah, so there's loads of these. Bluish Moon. So this is kind of a little set of chord changes based on Blue Moon. And the cool thing is with this is you can drag this into a song, and then you can use the chord preview to see what these sound like, or you can just drag them down onto an instrument. So why don't we create a new song so that I don't mess up my theme song, which I was actually about to do. I was about to actually go ballistic and completely change my theme song. So let's put that in there, and then we will open up the inspector, and we will pull this guy down. We'll pull this guy down as well, and we'll double click this guy. We'll go major, and we'll grab this guy here. And notice what happened. I just clicked on it, and look what happened. All of those chords are now in our song. So we got 2 5 3 6 2 5 1. So let's just zoom that there, and then I can pull this back down again as well. So now we've got ourselves what is already a very well loved, very well used set of chord changes. Cool thing is I can go to the instrument here. I can bring in presence, and we can grab a piano. Why it defaults to this kind of color, I don't know. I wish somebody would tell me why it does that. And then we can just grab all of that, and we can drop it down here. Now it puts all of these in root position, but we don't mind. We don't mind about that, because now that I've got these in here, okay, so let's go and stick in here a C major 7. And we will drag that down there as well. And we will just re-glue all of that together. And then what we'll do is we'll make a little loop out of this. And then what we can do is we can close the inspector. I keep on going up to the top here. It's not there anymore. It's down the bottom. Let's move that down. And then what we're going to do? Oh yeah, I'm going to double click here. And this opens up the note editor here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open the macro toolbar. And I've already defaulted to the harmony wizard. You can all guess exactly what I'm going to do with this, can't you? So I'm going to go and do Control A to select everything. And then we are going to invert some of these chords to get them sounding a little bit more interesting. We can change chord voicings. Let's see, let's do drop 2 and drop 4 voicings. Let's see what that does. In actual fact, what we need to do is we need to extend that out. Let's just cut that. I'm going to have to drop this back in so we make this the proper length. And then I'm going to have to Do the same with this. I'm going to invert the chords down a couple of times, and then I'm going to go transform, change chord voicing, drop 4 and 2. Yeah, perfect. And then we're going to glue that all back to one event again. There we go. So see what we can do with this. See how powerful this is. If you're kind of maybe struggling for an idea for a song, or maybe you've got a melody in your head, but you're not really sure what to do with chords, you can use the chord assistant, but you can also use the inspector, and you can select preset chords, and you can try different ones out and see what works for you and see what you like. And then you can start adding different instrumentation, and you can have those instruments follow the chord track. You can grab loops from Splice just to get you started with a demo. You can grab loops from Splice and you can have them follow the chord track. Even better, you can go an extra step further. You can get ceremony tonalics, and you can start dragging things in from tonalics and using those and the unique way in which they integrate with the chord track in the most unique and amazing way. So you could use a combination of tonalics and loops from Splice to create something that is fabulous, that sounds fantastic, and then you can start spitballing some lyrics and create a melody and start putting that over the top. The beauty of this is that under copyright laws, as they stand, and they are very, very unlikely to change, you can just use chords, and you can put your own lyrics on it, you can put your own melody on it, and you can claim it as your own. You can sell the song, and you can earn money from it, because chords are not subject to copyright as the law stands. Now, will that change in the future? Maybe. There have been some copyright law cases, both on in the UK and in the United States, where lawyers have tried to challenge and upset that particular apple cart. Fortunately, there are great musicologists who, they go to trial regularly and they appear as expert witnesses. And, one of the things that they do is they work hard to prevent copyright cases starting to infringe upon the legal sanctity of chord changes. Because if chords can be copyrighted, then nobody is safe. Nobody is safe from copyright. Nobody. And it would also mean that anybody that has done a head arrangement on the chord changes to How High the Moon, or Love for Sale, or I Got Rhythm, or Cherokee, or, Nice to Be You, or any of those jazz standards, and they put their own melody on the top, they would all be subject to copyright claim. And, pretty much the entirety of the music created in both the swing era and the bebop era, and the 1950s and 60s and beyond periods of popular music would all be subject to copyright challenge, because they're using chords from those popular songs from the 1920s and 1930s. It was a popular thing to do if you are a jazz musician, or even if you're not a jazz musician. Even country musicians do this. They borrow chord changes from old, folk songs from the Civil War, for example. There are Civil War songs on both sides of the Atlantic. There's American Civil War, there's English Civil War, and both of those great conflicts also brought with them an awful lot of songwriting that was social commentary on what was going on within those conflicts, and protest songs and songs about all kinds of issues that were thrown up in the aftermath of both the US Civil War and the English Civil War, and the various civil wars that actually have taken place in Scotland as well before the Act of Union in 1707. So there's an awful lot of songwriting from those eras that then the chord changes from those songs formed the basis of newer songs in the 1920s and 1930s that then those chord changes again were used by people like Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie and Miles Davis in the 1940s and 50s. And, other popular songwriters like, I'm just thinking of somebody that spans like all of those generations. Probably somebody like Andy Williams, for example, is an example of a songwriter and a composer. Burt Bacharach is another one who has his feet in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and so on. And so he would have taken chord changes from the 40s and used them as a vehicle for writing some of his songs. So if chords became subject to copyright, popular music in particular, would be in grave, grave trouble. And so we don't want that. We don't want that to happen. So fortunately, there are musicologists. I get involved sometimes. I've been involved in a few legal cases where I've had to appear as an expert witness as a musicologist. And it's fine, I just sit and I just tell the truth. And I just lay out the facts as they are. That's all I'm required to do, is what musicologically is factual. And then, the either the judicial panel will decide, or it may well just be a bench trial. It usually is. And it's just a single judge who will then spend, 2-3 weeks, maybe a month, deciding what the outcome is, what the ruling is on a particular copyright issue. So it's fun. It's a fun little thing to do. And it's my way of kind of giving back to the community and also ensuring that music remains free for you to serve, for you to make, for you to use everything that is available for you as a tool to make music. So this is what the chord assistant and the chord track inspector now does in Studio Pro 8. So for everybody that was just like, oh, there's nothing here for songwriters, it's all for just guitar players and bass players with the Mustang and the Rumble Native, oh, woe is me. No, there's loads here for you if you're a songwriter. And especially if you're not a guitar player. I am not a guitar player. Yes, I am a bass player. I have a fretless and a fretted bass back there. I come from an upright bass background. And I'm a keyboard player. And I'm a vocalist. But I'm not a guitar player. And this is perfect for me as a composer, as an arranger. I mean, this is a real quick way for me to be able to knock out arrangements for TV and radio jingles and stuff like that I get asked to do all the time. And they need stuff like, they'll say, can you do this 30-second jingle for this cue? And it needs to be in this style, and it needs to have these elements to it, and we need it tomorrow morning. And they've sent that to me at like 9 o'clock at night. And so these tools are perfect for me to be able to just knock things together very quickly, do an edit, do a mix down, print it, send it, and then they use it in the commercial. They edit it into their commercial or whatever it might be that I'm being asked to do. But this is a real quick way to make a quick $250, frankly. And, I can knock a little arrangement here together in about 20 minutes. And send it off, and I get paid $250. And I can knock out 4, 5, 6 of those in a night. So, these tools are great, and this is the kind of thing that I have been asking for to be in this software, in this program, for probably the better part of, 12, 13 years. Going back 13 years ago, this kind of stuff was like, yes, we would love to be able to do this, but we don't have the technology yet to do it. But now we do. And we are only just getting started. So bear that in mind. What you're seeing now, and you are going, hey, this is really, really cool. This is really, really exciting. It is. But this is just the beginning of what is going to be in this program going forward. It's going to blow your socks off. Frankly, if you have anything to do with songwriting, if you are a composer, if you are an arranger, all of this stuff is going to be incredibly useful for you. So what if you're somebody like Kyle or Billy? You're not a songwriter. You're not a composer. You're not an arranger. Good thing is, you've got the arranger overview. You've got the channel overview. You've got a whole bunch of new plugins. You've got redesigned plugins in the native plugin suite that have been improved. And a lot of issues that were there, like some of the issues that were there with the metering in the compressor, for example, all of those things are fixed. Actually, the compressor looks better than it's ever looked, in my opinion. I've always thought the compressor, for such an essential tool for mixing, I've always thought the compressor has been a little bit kind of left on the shelf a little bit over the years. And then when we got to Studio One 6, suddenly we started sprucing that little guy up, putting, giving him a clean, a fresh lick of paint, an improved GUI, and improved controls. Those controls are so much easier to use now than they were before with the old knobs. And now it's even better in Studio One 8, so Studio Pro 8, I should say. It's going to take me a long time to actually get used to calling it Studio Pro 8. I don't have any objections, as I said at the start of the show, to the name, but it is going to take me a while to get used to actually saying it all the time. But I will. I'll get there, and I'll be calling it Studio Pro 8. Keith says, the future is so bright, we'll all be out of a job. Well, that's an interesting thought. I think to answer that question, I would strongly suggest you go and watch Adam Neely's recently released video essay on AI in music. He has a very particular point of view, but you know what? He argues that point of view exceedingly persuasively. And in my opinion, it is the correct point of view. And I'm very glad that he took the time, because that video is not short. It is not a short video. It is extremely well researched. It is extremely well edited. His arguments are laid out extremely clearly, and the evidence is extremely strong. It should be convincing to any musicology, any musicological trial where there is a jury of peers involved in deciding the case. I think the evidence is very, very strong, very persuasive, and I would be, this is something that should definitely be, prosecuted in that sense, based on his evidence alone. So it's very, very, very well worth going and checking out. And by the way, you should absolutely 1000% be a subscriber to Adam Neely's channel, because not only is there great stuff on bass playing and being a touring musician, but there's also an absolute megaton of really, really great video essays on music, music history, musicology, and music theory, and the application thereof to a very, very broad and wide variety of applications for music theory and that kind of thing. So he's terrific. He's great. I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big advocate for the work that he does, particularly his video essays. So definitely go check that out. In my opinion, it's a great answer to the, hey, with all of this AI business going on, are we all just going to end up out of work? Because, is the future essentially going to be, are we not just going to have an application where we just drag and drop everything into it and it does it for us, and then we print it and send it? Are we getting to that point? Are we getting to that place? I think on the one hand, it can certainly look like that's where we're going, that we are heading into the darkness, and we are heading into the dark ages where creativity is going to be reduced to such things as that I've discussed, and particular software programs. I'm not going to mention the brand of that particular software program that he talks about in his video. But on the one hand, it could look like that's where it's heading. That's the general direction of traffic. And real human creativity is doomed. And it's all just going to be down to algorithmic, generative artificial intelligence. And that's it. And therefore, does not this then propose an alternative argument where maybe there is a knee-jerk, maybe an appropriate knee-jerk away from generative AI, and maybe there's a wholesale rejection of AI altogether. We just steadfastly refuse to embrace it. Maybe, but I don't think that's the right answer either. I think that there are aspects of AI that are good and that are useful. I think the really bad AI is the generative AI. The AI that basically you give it suggestions and it spits out results for you. And that's your work. Your work is basically describing to the application what your song should sound like, and the vibe of it, the key, the tempo, the instrumentation, all of that. You just type that all in, and then it spits out the result, and then you basically put a limiter on the master bus and print the thing, and that's your song. There is that aspect of it, and I think that's the dangerous darkness aspect of it that we don't want to go down. On the other hand, I think there is definitely a room for AI, and what I have shown you here is certain aspects of AI being employed in this program, where this is more assistive AI. It's AI that basically suggests things to you, and then it's up to you, the user, whether you want to implement those suggestions or not. Depending upon whether you think those suggestions are valid, whether you think those suggestions warrant further exploration or not. So I think this is something that is this is really good AI. This is the good AI, not that other stuff from that other program that I've alluded to, which I think is wholesale damaging to the music business and to music creativity. And it's just designed to do one thing and one thing only, and that's to make an awful lot of money, but not for you. Not for you. You will never make the money from those kind of tools. They will make all the money. And you, the creative person, will be left with nothing. So that's the dark side that we don't want to go down. All right? We want to stay with the Jedi, which is these things, aka the Force, are useful and can be used for good, or they can be used for very bad. So that's my position. AI, I don't think is a bad thing broadly. I think actually it's a good thing and can be used in good ways and creative ways. But making AI basically do everything for you, no, I don't think that's good. And like I said, it doesn't make any money for you. It makes money for those guys. And you don't want that. So let's go back over here and see what you're saying. Let's see. I'm just going to quickly, because we got like about 10 minutes, and I want to kind of I want to see what's going on here. So, Just Bob says, are the dark chords flat out wrong, or can they be interpreted as tension chords? They can be tension chords, or they can be chords that don't belong to the key, but they may sound good. So like I said, it's all kind of based on probabilities as to whether it will fit or not. That's kind of how this is kind of working. Let's see. The Walrus 9 says, I have never had so many problems with any version of Studio One, but this has me baffled. Takes Pro Tools 8 5 to 8 minutes to start up. Support sent me what seems to be a list of what to do. Okay. But it reads like a manual on programming. I have no idea how to do anything they suggest. I'm so frustrated. Okay, so the first thing I would suggest is what tech support have done is they've provided you a bunch of things to try. If you are going to find those things complicated or difficult, then I'm going to suggest that you get somebody to help you do the things that they've asked you to do. You don't have to do this alone. Okay? If tech support are giving you something that you think, I don't actually understand this, there are two things you can do. The first thing you can do is you can respond to tech support and say, hey, I'm not sure I understand that little process that you've asked me to do. Can you break it down into something in that process? It's not that I don't want to do it. It's more that I just don't understand how to do it. Can you break it down a little bit more for me into something that's a little bit more simple? And maybe your support agent, whomever that is, might be able to provide you with some screenshots that will give you some visuals of what you need to do so that you can see what you need to do rather than just read what you need to do. Not everybody learns through reading. Some people are visual learners and they need to see the thing in action in order to be able to do it. So they like to follow. I'm kind of a little bit like that. I learn from reading because I have a photographic memory, so I can just take things in, and that's, it's instant for me. And I also have an aural memory, so I can hear things and they just stay with me, and they are things that I can just implement. Not everybody's like that. I'm not a visual learner at all. So if you were to, and I have had interactions with tech support over the years, and if, they just gave me a list of steps to do, go here, click on that, click on that, click on that, I might struggle to find those things that they're talking about. So what would help me is, if I was more of a visual learner, I would say, hey, can you send me a screenshot of where step 1 is? And then they might go, okay, if you need a screenshot for step 1, we'll give you one for all the other steps as well. So that's the first thing to do. The second thing to do is you need to basically look at why Studio Pro 8 might be taking time to start up. Okay? So for you, it's taking 5 to 8 minutes to start up, not Pro Tools. I misread that. It's taking you 5 to 8 minutes for Studio Pro 8 to start. For me, I have timed this. The very first time I installed Studio Pro 8, for the very first time, bear in mind when you do a very first install, it has to scan everything afresh. So it's going to scan all of your plugins. It's going to scan all of your presets. It has to. Otherwise, if you skip all of that stuff, when you open up a song, nothing will work. You will have no presets for your plugins for a start, and you'll have no presets for the virtual instruments that you've used in your songs either. So those things just won't be there. And then you'll be like, oh, where are all my presets? This is crazy. You don't want to be that kind of person. You don't want to be in that situation where nothing works because you wanted to get the startup thing happening faster. So on the initial startup, it is going to scan all of your plugins. So if you have a lot of plugins, if you are a plugin hoarder and you have 3,000 plugins, you're going to have to sit tight, or you're going to have to go make yourself a cup of coffee and let it scan. Once it has scanned these things once, it caches all of that data onto your computer. So the next time you start up, it doesn't have to do that again. It will do a scan, However, you can turn off the plugin scanner. If you know that you're not going to be adding any more plugins to Studio Pro 8 for a while, and you are where you are, then you can turn that off. And I'm going to show you where you can do that. So that will help speed up some of the startup time. So let's go back over here. So we're going to go, this is on a PC, mind. So for you, if you're on a Mac, it'll be preferences. For me, it's options. So if I go Studio Pro, and if I go to options, and then I'm going to go to, I have to find where this is. I've done this a few times and I can still never remember where it is. I think it's on locations. And I think it's here. Yes, here it is. So if you go locations, VST plugins, and then if you uncheck this box here, scan at startup. So uncheck that box, and then when you next start Studio Pro 8, it will not scan your plugins. It will skip over that, which if you've got a lot of plugins, it will buy you back some time on the startup. I did that way back in the day because I knew I had made a conscious decision that I was not buying any more plugins. And when I made that decision, that I wasn't going to buy any more plugins, I turned off the scan on startup because scanning the plugins on startup was always taking a little bit more time. That's the first thing that will buy you back a little bit of extra time. The presets, yes, they do get scanned every time. And there is no way to turn that off in the same way that there is for plugins. And there's a good reason for that. However, you may have noticed in one of the options that I just showed that there was a checkbox there that says use cached data for plugins. If you have that box checked, what it will do is when it loads up a song, it will load the plugin data in that song from cached data rather than loading those in afresh. So when you open up a song, it will load that song faster. So there's a couple of things that you can do there. It reads like a manual on programming. I have no idea how to do anything they suggest. I'm so frustrated. I understand your frustration. I really do. The thing that you have to bear in mind is that tech support agents, by their nature, are technical. So they are dealing with technical stuff day in, day out, all day, every day. So, you know, they may well speak to you in a language that you may not understand. So break down each one of those steps. Read each one of those steps several times and break it down into what each sentence of each step is. Define it. Look for it in the program. And then follow what it is that they're asking you to do. If it is to reset your settings files, for example, then the first step will be to go into help and then select the option to open the settings folder. That's step 1. Step 2, close the program. Step 3, all the stuff that is in that folder, copy it and paste it to a new folder on your desktop. Why? Because you want to make a backup. And then once you've made your backup, you can delete everything that is in the original settings folder. Once you've deleted everything that's in there, the next thing you can do is you start up Studio Pro 8. Now, when it starts up, it will start up as if it's fresh. So you will find that the recent songs list is gone. Everything that is listed in there is now gone. Does that mean your songs are gone? No, it doesn't. Your songs are stored on your computer, not in the program. The recent files list is just a list of links that are hyperlinks to your songs that when you click on them, it opens the song straight away. You don't have to go to File, Open. That's the thing about the recent files list. It's just a convenience list. So with that list cleared, you will now have to go into File, Open, navigate to a song and open it. And when you open it, it will plop a new link for that song into the recent files list. You'll also notice that some of your settings will be set to default. So if you've got custom settings, like a color scheme, or a toolbar that you've made yourself, or something like that, you will need to go and get those settings files out of your backup and copy them across to the original settings folder. And then restart Studio One, and those things will come back. Or Studio Pro, those things will come back. So I don't quite know what it is that's causing your computer to take that long to start Studio Pro. Could be the number of plugins or number of virtual instruments that you've got. I don't know. But like I said, there's a couple of things there you can do to speed that process up. Let's see. Glenn Miller's In the Mood was copied all over the place during its heyday. Yeah, the chord changes to that song were very popular. Alien Intelligence Agency is here showing some, they look like England flags. Okay, that's good. And just Bob says, lovingly press that like button, folks. Jonny gets better standings if you do. Thank you very much. Studio Pro's looking shit hot. And oh, and when I see Fender, I think Jimi Hendrix. Legend. Yeah, that's interesting. You should say that. When I see Fender, I think Jaco Pastorius. Similar thing. Legend. And you make acid techno. Yeah. Keith says, I'm not concerned about tech or AI in the future. Always said they'll become tools. Yeah, absolutely they will. Dwayne says, would you give us a link to the Adam Neely AI and music? Not seeing it in my search. You can find his channel. Search for Adam Neely. It's Neeley. Adam Neely. When you find his channel, you'll get that there. Let's see. I'm struggling to find the things that they are talking about. That is the whole problem. I have reached out to Lawrence, who is the tech assigned to me. Lawrence is great. Lawrence is pretty much the best support agent that Presonus have ever had. And that is unequivocal. That's unarguable. Just my opinion. But yeah, he's awesome. Just did what you asked me to do, Jonny, about the plugins, and it's still getting stuck on the starting Fender Services support tab. Ah, that's where it's getting stuck. Starting Fender Services support tab. It just stays there. It's been there for 3 minutes. Okay. Please do what you asked me to do. Okay, great. It's still on starting Fender support services. Okay. That's basically the same as what used to be the just swap out Fender for Presonus, the Presonus support services. It's basically settings files. That's what it's doing there. It's basically writing and scanning and all of that kind of thing, your settings files, and establishing connections to servers and that kind of stuff. That's what that does. Lawrence is great. If you don't understand what he's asking you to do, write him back in your ticket and ask him to simplify the process for you. And he will. He will. Okay? He's incredibly patient. He's incredibly kind. He will help you. And he will get this issue resolved for you. Jonny Guy will also help as well. But Lawrence is a legend. No question about it. Okay, all right. So we are 6 minutes over time, but it was really important that we kind of talk about all these things, and I go through your questions. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. You guys are fantastic. You guys really are great. And your questions have been absolutely outstanding. So we are going to go back to our theme tune. And I'm going to delete this chord because I don't want that. Delete. There we go. All right, so sorry. I appear to have messed up my theme song. Even though I was trying not to, I appear to have done so. Anyway, there we go. That's the end of the show, folks. Billy Morgan has dropped a link to Adam Neely's channel. It's going to be the newest video there, so you can't miss it. Okay? It's a bit of a long one, so, you know, make yourself coffee, make yourself a peanut butter sandwich or something and sit and watch. It's great. It's extremely thorough, and I could not agree more with his conclusions. So that's the end, folks. We will be back for Sunday Night Live, but remember, next Wednesday there will be no show because I will be down in England for my father's funeral. So I will not be here. So, yeah. So when I get back, please do be kind to me because I am still very delicate, but I'm probably likely to be even more so when I get back. Take it easy, folks, and I'll see you then. Good night.